Daniel placed the groceries one by one on the counter, watching Emily hum to herself, clutching the cereal box like it was treasure. His focus stayed on Sophie. She fumbled with the scanner, her fingers trembling so much she had to stop and steady herself before trying again. The small smile she forced onto her face looked fragile, like it would break if he said the wrong word. "Hey, are you okay?" Daniel asked softly, his voice carrying both concern and patience. Her lips curved up, but her eyes gave her away. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a bit tired." The words were quiet, rehearsed, almost automatic, as though she had said them many times before. Daniel didn't look away. Years of firefighting had taught him what fear looked like in a person's eyes, and this wasn't exhaustion. This wasn't about being tired. Something deeper was clawing beneath her calm surface. Emily shifted beside him, unaware, rocking the cereal box from side to side. Daniel tried to smile at his daughter, but his chest stayed heavy. His gaze returned to Sophie. The scanner beeped unevenly in her hands, and she had to delete the code twice before she got it right. Every small movement was marked by a nervous shake, every breath catching like she was holding something back. Daniel knew. This wasn't about tiredness. Whatever Sophie was hiding, it was weighing her down, and he felt it pressing on him too. Something more than tiredness hid behind that smile. Something that mattered. Something that couldn't be ignored. Daniel watched her eyes flicker for just a second, a quick glance toward the office where the manager stood behind the glass. It was so fast most people wouldn't have noticed, but Daniel did. The way her gaze darted and then snapped away told him more than her words ever could. Emily, in her small, innocent voice, tilted her head up at Sophie. "Are you cold? Daddy can get you his jacket." Sophie gave a chuckle, light and polite, but it never reached her eyes. Her lips moved as if to reassure, but the weight in her face stayed. Daniel's chest tightened. That laugh wasn't real. It was a cover. He handed her the money, his eyes never leaving her trembling fingers. She whispered a thank you, and he nodded, taking Emily's hand. They started toward the door. Halfway across the floor, something made him look back. Sophie leaned against the counter, her shoulders sagging for just an instant, as if her body couldn't hold her up anymore. Then the manager came out, voice low but sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. Sophie stiffened instantly, her body snapping upright as if pulled by invisible strings. Daniel froze. His jaw clenched. This wasn't just a long day. This was something else, something far darker. And he knew he couldn't walk away. Daniel turned back, his steps slow, steady, as Emily hummed by his side. He waited until the last customer walked away, then leaned in just enough that his daughter wouldn't hear. His voice was low, calm, but it carried weight. "Listen, I saw you look toward him. If there's something wrong, you can tell me." Her lips parted, then closed again. She shook her head, whispering, "I really shouldn't, it's nothing I can talk about." Daniel didn't move. His voice dropped further. "I'm a dad. I've seen enough to know when someone's in trouble. I'm not going to walk away without making sure you're okay." Her fingers tightened on the edge of the counter. She looked at him, then back at the office, then back again. The silence stretched until it nearly broke her. Finally, in the faintest breath, she said, "It's him. He harasses me." Daniel's chest locked tight. "Harasses you? How?" Her eyes glistened. "Comments. Touching my shoulder when he walks by. Standing too close. Saying things no one should ever say at work. I told him to stop once, and he cut my hours." Daniel's jaw clenched hard enough to ache. He could almost feel the echo of those powerless moments after his wife passed, the nights when bills piled up, when silence was his only companion. He remembered the weight of being cornered by life itself. That same weight now pressed on Sophie. And in that moment, the truth was sharp, undeniable. This wasn't exhaustion. It wasn't nerves. It was a scandal festering in silence, an abuse of power hiding behind a scowl and a title. Sophie's lips trembled as she whispered, "What if no one believes me?" Her voice cracked on the last word, and the fear in her eyes was almost unbearable. Daniel leaned closer, steady and unshaken. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing anyway. She shook her head, still fighting the words back, but he didn't let her retreat into silence. His voice stayed firm, but gentle enough to hold her up. "Then they'll have to deal with me. I've seen men like him before, and they get away with it because people stay quiet. Not this time." Her breath caught, but she didn't look away. For the first time, her shoulders shifted, just a little, as though the weight was no longer hers alone. Daniel nodded slowly. "You don't have to face this by yourself. We'll call HR. We'll do it together." She hesitated, then gave the smallest nod, her hands still trembling, but her eyes beginning to hold something more than fear. And then, to the listener, Daniel's voice cut in with quiet conviction. "If you believe courage and kindness can change lives, please like this video, subscribe, and watch till the end." Sophie's hands trembled as she held the phone, her voice breaking as she gave her name to the HR rep. Daniel stayed close, steady, his presence grounding her through every word. She forced herself to describe it all, how his comments lingered too long, how his hand brushed her shoulder, how her hours were cut the moment she resisted. Each word shook as it left her lips, but she said them anyway. Daniel watched her fight to breathe through it, his jaw tight, his silence heavy with anger. When she finished, the HR voice on the other end promised an investigation, assured her she would not have to work another shift until it was resolved. Sophie closed her eyes, exhaling as if she had been holding her breath for months. For the first time, she looked at Daniel with something other than fear. Gratitude. Relief. A fragile piece of hope. But as they stepped out of the break room, the fragile moment shattered. The manager's eyes locked on them. His frown sharpened. His voice cut like a blade. "What's going on here?" Sophie stiffened, her body jerking tight like a string pulled too hard. The promise of safety was there, but the danger hadn't gone anywhere. It was standing right in front of them. The manager's voice snapped through the air. "What's going on here?" His stare pinned Sophie in place, his tone sharp enough to cut through her fragile calm. Her lips trembled, her breath uneven, but she forced the words out anyway. "What's going on is that I've reported you." The silence that followed was thick, almost unbearable. His face drained of color, his mouth opening but no words coming out. Daniel moved a step closer, his presence deliberate, his voice steady and low. "You're done intimidating her. If I hear you so much as look at her the wrong way again, you'll have more than HR to answer to." The manager's chest rose sharply, but no sound followed. His authority slipped in an instant, his confidence unraveling in front of them both. Sophie stood taller, still trembling, but no longer silent. And he, so used to control, was left pale, powerless, and suddenly very small. "For now." Sophie let out a shaky breath, her whole body trembling as the words slipped from her lips. I can't believe I did that." Daniel's expression softened, the steel in his eyes giving way to warmth. "You did. And you're stronger than you think." Her gaze lifted to his, and for the first time, the fear that had gripped her was joined by something else, gratitude. It flickered in her eyes like a fragile flame, small but real. Daniel gave a faint nod, steady, reassuring. But beneath the moment, an unspoken question hung heavy. What if nothing changed? What if his power stretched further than one report, further than one phone call? The relief was there, but it carried a shadow, and the suspense clung to both of them, refusing to let go. Days later, Daniel's phone rang. Sophie's voice came through, unsteady but lighter than before. She told him the manager had been suspended, that HR had offered her extra hours at another store. Each word carried the sound of someone who had finally been heard. Daniel listened in silence, a small smile tugging at the edge of his lips when she said, "Thank you, for not walking away." He didn't answer right away, but the relief in her tone said enough. When the call ended, Emily, who had been nearby, tilted her head curiously. "Daddy, is she okay now?" Daniel pulled her close, his voice low and certain. "Yes, sweetheart. Because sometimes you just have to stand up for someone." The moment settled, safe and gentle, but under the warmth was a harder truth. This ending was hers, but not everyone's. For every Sophie who found the courage to speak, there were others still silent, still enduring. Cruelty thrived in silence. Courage was the only thing strong enough to break it. Daniel's words lingered long after the call ended. The truth was simple, yet heavy. Even a simple question like, "Are you okay?" can change someone's life. One small moment of noticing, one refusal to walk away, had turned fear into courage. But the weight remained. Not every story ends with suspension, or justice, or safety. There are others, still silent, still unheard, still enduring what Sophie had the strength to expose. Their voices trapped, their fear unbroken. And that's where the suspense stays, hanging in the air. Because this was not an isolated scandal, not a single cruel man in a single place. It was a shadow that lived anywhere silence was stronger than courage. The cliff was clear, kindness may be the only line of defense. Please like this video and subscribe to Kindness Stories so we can keep sharing these powerful moments of compassion with the world. In the end, Sophie's story wasn't just about one moment in a store, or one manager abusing his power. It was a mirror of what so many face in silence every single day. Harassment, intimidation, the fear of speaking up, these are not rare, and too often they go unnoticed because people look away. What Daniel showed is something anyone can carry into real life: paying attention, asking a simple question, refusing to walk away. Those small acts can become lifelines. They can be the difference between someone staying silent and someone finding the courage to speak. And just like Sophie, many who finally break the silence discover they are stronger than they ever believed. But they don't always get there alone. They need someone to notice. Someone to stand beside them. This story reminds us all, kindness is not just compassion, it's action. And in real life, that action might be what saves someone from breaking under the weight of fear.